This video is brought to you by Hygromo Chalk. Use code TPSA 10% off to get a discount.
All right. I apologize for the delay, but I think we will get started now. So thank you everybody for showing up, and thanks to all of the wonderful speakers that have agreed to talk to us about their internships. I know some of them are leaving throughout the talk, so again, that's why we're thinking of the start. We have quite a few things to get through, and we already started late, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. Our first speaker is Isabel. She will talk to us about DESY. That's in Germany. And so I'll just pass over to her now.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. I'll get you to send me a text or something if it isn't. But yeah, so hi, I'm Isabel. And I'm going to talk to you about the DESY summer student program. So DESY is the Deutsche Electron Synchrotron. So it's a research center of the Helmholtz Association, and it's in Germany. Okay, so about DESY, there's two campuses in Germany. So there's the Hamburg campus, which is located just a bit outside of the city of Hamburg. And this is kind of the main location. It has kind of most of the accelerators. And there they do research in photon science and particle physics. There's also the Zeuthen campus, which is a bit outside of Berlin. And there they kind of focus a bit more on astroparticle research. So the actual program, I was there in the summer of 2024, so about a year ago. So I'll speak from my experience, though I'm sure it's relatively the same as what it'll be next year. It's quite a big group of students. So there was 97 of us in Hamburg and 15 in Zeuthen. And it's relatively fairly split across genders. So yeah, I mean, it was nice. It was a very big group of people, but it was people from all over the globe, really. And so it was really nice to meet like such a spread of different people. It took place from the 15th of July to the 5th of September, so it was quite a while, but it was enjoyable. There were lectures on most days in the mornings, and they were given by different DESY researchers on kind of their area of study. So we kind of heard about like how the accelerators are made and how they're used, and kind of then a bit more like we had lectures on like the standard model and QCD. So it was quite a variety. I mean, obviously you didn't have to go to all of them, but I mean, I tried my best to go to all of them. Yeah, so on top of that, there were tours of the campus and the experimental halls and the accelerators. So we went down into the tunnels and walked along the line, which is really cool. I mean, that's a very like unique experience to get. And yeah, so what you do is you undertake a project which is guided by a supervisor there. And then have to complete a report at the end on the project. And usually you're going to have to present it to at least the team you're working with. And some people presented them to the entire cohort. You're given approximately €800 a month, which is maybe not as competitive as some of the other summer projects, but it does give free accommodation in the guest house that is on campus. So you're not paying for any rent. Which is really good. So you're living with all the other students in this big kind of block, with like big shared kitchens, and yeah, so you really get to know everyone. They also cover your travel expenses, so your flights over and back, they will pay for. You just have to give them the receipts. So you're not really out of pocket on anything like that. You just need to pay for your food once you're there. So here I have like the picture of all of us in DESY in Hamburg. So I mean, there's obviously a big pile, and then at the top, it's just kind of a sample of like the kind of lecture timetable we had. And then they shared this graphic with us, which showed like all the different countries that were there. So there were 3 Irish students, 2 of us in Hamburg and 1 guy in Zeuthen. The 2 of us in Hamburg were both Trinity TP students. So my project, what I did was I implemented an algorithm for indexing diffraction patterns from crystallography experiments. So indexing is like putting Miller indices to it. So anyone who's done condensed matter in second year might know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so mine was a computational project. I was working with a guy called Thomas White in the photon science, scientific communication, or scientific computing group. So kind of my everyday looked like getting up, going to lectures for about 2 hours in the morning with obviously a gap in between them. And then they eat lunch very early in Germany, so we'd head for lunch after the lectures, chat about a bit, and then I'd head to my office, which was kind of the office of my supervisor and his team. There was one other summer student in that office, and I'd stay there till about 5 working. And then I'd come home. So you really didn't feel overworked. I'd say the most kind of pressure I felt was kind of leading up to when the report was due, and I actually had to sit down and write a bit. I think that's when most people felt like they had a bit of pressure on themselves, but most of the supervisors are very nice and they don't really expect a massive amount from you. You just, do what they ask you to do and you get by ground. So that was my project. Here I have some pictures. So kind of on the left-hand side is the accommodation. You can see it's a really massive kitchen and nice bedroom. And then, so we did some day trips because you have a group of young people that are in a new country. Everyone wants to kind of explore the place. So we took we spent a weekend in Berlin. And then we just took some day trips. You can take trains to nearby towns. And so we went, on boats. And then we had a big celebration on the last night. We had a bit of karaoke and that's what that picture is. So really got to know everyone. Everyone was very friendly. And so the application process, I'll talk about my experience from 2024, but I understand it was basically the exact same last year based on talking to people. So in 2024, you needed to write your motivation for applying for the program, and it was 1,000 characters, which is very short. And that's not a lot at all, so you need to be quite concise on what you're saying. And be specific enough about why it's DAISY in particular you want to go to and not just any internship. You need a CV, which put in anything you think is relevant. Your academic transcript. So if you're a TP, you need to get onto School of Maths for that, and physics, you need to get onto the physics department. 2 references, which I think is probably the most of any of these programs. It's obviously a bit of a hassle to find 2 references, but just do your best. If you have a lecturer that you did well enough in their class, they'll be happy enough to write it for you if you give them enough time. Don't leave it to the day before it's due. And then you need to list your preferences for the project area. So they'll have a big list of the different kind of research areas and give you kind of a brief description of what they do, and you give 3 preferences. So I don't know how accurate they are in giving what people want. I don't really know how they work it out, but so you put that in. And I heard back by early April on my application status. I wasn't interviewed or anything. So I went onto the website and it says they have the dates for the 2026 program, and they're going to update the site in early November. So I'd keep an eye on it. Just Google DAISY Summer Student Program and you should hopefully find it. So that's all I have to say. I don't know if we're going to try and do question and answers here because it's obviously a little difficult with me being online, but this is my email. Feel free to send me an email with any question. I'll do my best to answer. Maybe, there might be a bit more when the application's actually open. But that's all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Are there any questions? Spoken better. Okay.
I'll wait, and if there's any questions out, I might text them or type them in, but let me know.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So I'm sure the slides will be circulated anyway. That's good. Right. I'm going to leave it here myself. But good luck with the rest of the presentations. Bye.
All right. So next up we'll have Stephen Hines. He is joining us from Galway, well, I'd imagine anyway. And he will talk to.
Will I share my screen now, son? Okay. Okay, so my name is Stephen Hines, and I just graduated in physics from the University of Galway, specifically in the theoretical physics stream. So that's kind of our equivalent of GP, I suppose. I'm going to talk to you about the CERN summer student program. So as part of the CERN summer student program, you'll spend 8 to 13 weeks working on a research project at CERN. Now, there's an asterisk there that I'll come back to in a second. So that isn't the entirety of the program. There will also be 5 weeks of morning lectures on topics in experimental and theoretical particle physics starting in July. And I have a link to the timetable there on the slides this past year, if you want to see it. CERN Open Lab also put on lectures in the afternoons that are more so on kind of computer science and IT. There's also a series of workshops on different topics throughout the summer. So things like silicon sensors, cloud chambers, MadGraph, all sorts of things really that you can sign up for. And there are visits to different sites at CERN, so like the Synchrotron, the Atlas control room, the antiproton decelerator. You don't get to go on visits to the detectors themselves down at the LHC, unfortunately, because it's running. So, which I know is a big source of disappointment for some people there. One interesting aspect of it as an internship is that there were something in the region of 350 summer students from all over the world there this summer. I'm not sure of the exact number, but it was, so there were around 350 summer students from all over the world. So that was a very interesting aspect of it because I met loads of people from countries where I'd never met people from those countries before. And that was just really fun and interesting because there were just literally hundreds of other students there from every corner of the world. So there was an asterisk there. Oh, that's the visual part you missed, just there. And the reason for that is that students from non-member states can only stay for 8 weeks as summer students. Now, luckily, as of yesterday, Ireland is an associate member state of CERN. So Irish students can now stay for up to 13 weeks, which is good news for you if you're looking to apply for this next summer. And on the topic of applications, in order to be eligible, you have to be a bachelor or master's student in physics, engineering, computer science, or mathematics, who's completed at least 6 semesters of full-time study. So I'm presuming in the room there we'll have mostly physics and maybe some mathematics. And it's also worth noting that students who have just graduated are eligible. So then in an Irish context, this means that we're looking at, you're at 3rd and 4th year undergraduates and master's students. So to apply, you need to submit a CV, a copy of your most recent academic transcript, and at least 1 academic reference letter from the past 12 months, preferably 2. The application deadline is in late January. As last I checked, it hadn't been posted for this coming year, but last year, I think it was the 26th of January. You'll be told if your application was successful by the end of April at the latest. I think I was told on the 1st of April, funnily enough. Now, I spoke to a few people in the office that I worked in CERN about how they choose applicants. And I'd love to be able to tell you that there is one set of criteria that they all agreed on. But unfortunately, they kind of gave quite varied answers. So sometimes it was something like that, that an applicant, say, was vouched for by a particular academic that they knew, and they knew, okay, yeah, that person is sound. Sometimes it was that a student had experience with a particular skill or programming language or something, or particular kind of sub-discipline of physics that they thought would be useful to them in their lab or office. So it really varied quite a bit, and they have to get through so many applications. So it's kind of it can seem a little bit arbitrary or random as to what the deciding factor is, especially when they, as you can imagine, have, I think, like thousands of applications for the summer student program. It's quite competitive. But also I should say that on your application, do definitely make mention of the fact at least that you're coming from an Irish university, because I would imagine the fact that we are now an associate member helps our chances relative to in the past when we were a non-member state. But I'm not precisely sure what influence it has on it. So as far as pay and things like that, one convenient thing is that Irish citizens don't need a visa to work in France or Switzerland. So that just makes it, for the duration of time we're talking about, so that just makes it a little bit handier than maybe some countries where you have that bit more paperwork, that bit more things to be worrying about. The net pay is 93 francs per day. And I was also given 448 Swiss francs to cover travel to and from Geneva. The exchange rate is that it's about one Swiss franc to about €1.08. For accommodation, you can book it in the CERN hotel on the main CERN campus, it's down here, or in Foyer Schumann in Saint-Genis-Pouilly, which is just across the border in France over here. So the CERN campus itself is actually on the French-Swiss border. And yeah, it's not very far really at all from Schumann to the main gate of CERN. It's about 1.5 kilometers. You can get the shuttle bus that's the CERN run for free, or you can cycle it because you can rent bikes for free from CERN. So either or here really. And they also let you book your own accommodation if you want to, but they also warn you off of it on the basis that just like flats and things are very hard to come by and very expensive in Geneva in general. So I didn't even remotely look into it because it's by reputation also just quite bad. So accommodation prices there basically are such that you'll have anywhere between 70 and 45 francs to spare each day for food, travel, and things like that afterwards, depending on what kind of a room you opt for. Both hostels have cooking facilities. There are loads of supermarkets nearby in Switzerland and France. The French ones are generally a bit cheaper. To say something briefly about the work itself, I'm reluctant to go into too much detail because there really was a huge variety from people I spoke to about the particular kind of work the different students were doing. And there was also the fact that some students got a much more clearly delineated project than others. So some people had it clear, this is my one project that I'm working on for the summer. And then some people had much more of a sequence of interesting but not necessarily related jobs that they were doing over the summer. For what it's worth, though, my project mainly consisted of testing pixel detector modules for ITK, which will be the new inner tracker of Atlas. So they're just the test setups that I used. I'm assuming it's going to be mostly theoretical physics people in the room, so maybe they're just horrified at all this mess of cables and power supplies and whatever. But that was it anyway. And at the end of it all, then I had to give 2 15-minute presentations about my work. These were grand and fairly informal, really. It was just, one was put on for the office that I worked in, and the other one was put on for the department more broadly. And yeah, everybody there was sound. They weren't looking to grill you or anything. They just wanted to know what the summer students were up to over the summer. And then at the end of it, they'll expect a short 1 to 5 page report to be submitted ideally by your contract end date. Now, my supervisors were not overly concerned about this report at all, but I don't know, I'm assuming that varies, from supervisor to supervisor, but it wasn't super stressful or anything. A quick word on Geneva itself. CERN is about 30 minutes by tram from the city centre of Geneva. Public transport there is quite good and reliable. It's affordable. It's only 45 francs for a month's pass. The city centre in Geneva itself is lovely as well. You're just doing things in the evenings or the weekend. The lake there is beautiful. It's lovely and warm to go swimming in, actually, especially if you're used to the sea in Ireland. This thing is like a bath. And there are loads of public festivals on there over the summer as well. So say like you have Fête de la Musique in June, I think, which is just a big public music festival. There's the Swiss National Day in August. Loads of museums. You can go visit the UN or the Museum of the Red Cross and things in the city centre as well. Yeah, I just have more photos and things at the end. So photos of the various places that they take you on tours of in CERN. So here's the Synchrotron, one of the first particle accelerators at CERN. Here's the Atlas control room, and that's the building where the anti-proton decelerator is housed. As far as travel and spare time, one thing that's lovely about the internship is that Geneva itself is very well located right in the middle of Western Europe. And for just conveniently for traveling either in Switzerland or further afield. One thing that's very handy, you can get this thing called the Friends Pass in Switzerland that covers any public transport in Switzerland for a full day for up to 4 people for 80 francs. So if you get it between 4 people, it's only 20 francs per person. You can go as far as you want, as far as you're willing to go in a day. So yeah, you can do traveling to all sorts of other cities in Switzerland or farther afield. And I have some photos here from like St. Gallen and Lausanne. Some more photos here. I'll bore you with Zurich. There's James Joyce and Nora Barnacle's grave in Zurich. There's the Parliament of Liechtenstein we went to for a laugh. Had to be done, I suppose. Yeah, it goes without saying that also it's a lovely spot for lots of lovely spots there for like hiking and hill walking and things if you're into that, regardless of your level of experience with it. But they were like really, really accessible, easily accessible from CERN. So that was lovely, and just beautiful scenery and things. And then I think I just had a few more nice photos at the end there from Mont Blanc, which is also well worth seeing because it's quite near Geneva. Yeah, I just threw in a lot of photos at the end there of like interesting things you can be doing in the evenings or the weekends if you're lucky enough to succeed in getting an internship, I suppose. So Sinead from me. Thanks very much. And does anybody have any questions? Oh, and yes, I had my email there at the end, but I don't know if the slides will be doing the rounds. If you have any questions later. Yes, yeah. Is there a specific? Yeah, so this is for the summer student program, and then you have things like technical studentship and things like that, which I think are for at a minimum master's students, I think, or something like that. Yeah, so this is for the summer student program, which is 3rd or 4th year undergrad or master's students. And I'm not sure if they have an actual link up as yet for the application for this year, which is, I don't know, maybe a bit odd, but I suppose it's the end of January when their deadline would be. But I'll have a look certainly to see can I track down the actual link if they have one posted for this year, because I wasn't able to find where the one for this year was. But yeah, I think the ones that are 4 to 12 months are things like the technical studentship, or there's another one, yeah, where it's just like it's called like a long-term internship or something, but this is specifically the summer student program, which is kind of 8 to 13 weeks over the summer, starting in June. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
So, there's that, and also you go to this.
No, so you don't get a specific project beforehand as such, but when you're applying, you get, when you're applying, they'll give you lists of, say, of maybe like programming languages or of areas of physics that you're particularly interested in. And so sometimes you only get to pick one, and then sometimes you can give them just a whole list to say, oh, well, I like this thing, and I feel as though I'm proficient in these things. So you give them a whole heap of things that you're interested in. And then they kind of, I suppose, try to match that to somebody who says, oh yeah, they sound like they would be handy to have working in our office. But I wouldn't, so yeah, you don't get the specific project beforehand, unfortunately. You kind of just, you give them an idea of what you're interested in and what you feel you might have some skills in. But I also wouldn't be too worried about the part about what you feel you have some skills in, because they're not overly harsh on the fact that like undergrads can't be experts in everything or whatever, if that answers that, I think. Yeah, there are definitely computer science projects like those of them. There were a lot of computer scientists there. I can't remember specifically if there were AI ones, but I do remember. See, I didn't go to very many of the open lab lectures, which are kind of computer science and IT side of things, but I do have a notion that they had a series of those that were on AI as well. So there's definitely a lot of those sorts of things going on at CERN as well. So if that's your like wheelhouse or what you're interested in or what you feel you're good at, there's definitely a lot of that sort of stuff going on at CERN as well. And yeah, they have a massive big data center there, so there's definitely big computer science stuff going on. I know I talked to loads of masters and undergrad computer science students there. So it's not strictly just physicists.
Any more questions? Okay. Well, if you have any more, then share the email slides, and the slides will be up.
Great. Yeah, thanks very much. If you have any other questions, or if anybody feels like I didn't answer your question properly there, because it's kind of an awkward way to do them, my email will be at the end of the slides there. Yeah, thanks very much. I'll let you go now. See ya.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Vedant. I'm a fourth year TP, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the summer undergraduate research experience, more commonly called SURE. So what is SURE? It's a 10-week paid summer internship run by the School of Physics. The only eligibility requirement is that you are a third year, so junior sophomore School of Physics student, meaning that you have to be either in one of the physical sciences moderadorships or in TP. So if you're in maths, you're unfortunately not eligible to apply for this. You're paid €300 a week, and that's tax-free. So for Dublin, should just about cover rent. If you're staying at home, then you might actually make some money with that. It started last year on the 26th of May, but the dates are flexible, meaning that in discussion with your supervisor, you can choose when to start and end, but it is 10 weeks from that. Last year, 7 internships were awarded. So it's a fairly selective internship in that sense. And yeah, basically it's meant for students who have a passion for academia, who want to pursue postgraduate research, basically expose them to what that would look like in a group setting in the School of Physics. Yeah, and basically people are also considering doing PhD later on. For example, for IRC funding, SURE is meant to be a sort of introduction to what that process would be like, if that's what you're interested in. Okay, so what was the timeline? The timeline was February 4th. We got an email from Professor Lungi that the applications were open. The applications were due only 10 days later, but as I'll explain in the slide, that's actually not that big of an issue. Then 10 days after that, offers were made. So I got my offer on 24th of Feb. Although, depending on who does or doesn't accept the initial offers, this could actually stretch out for much longer. So I've heard of people getting offers in April and May. So just because it means you weren't accepted in the first place doesn't necessarily mean you won't get it eventually. And then May 26th was the official start date. Again, conditional on deciding for your student. Okay, so why did I say that the 10-day application deadline isn't a problem? It's primarily for two reasons. The first is that the application itself isn't very long, so it's quite a short application. And the second is because the application date, so Feb 4th, is much later than some of the other applications, internships you'd apply to. So for example, both CERN, DESY, and Perimeter, these all happen in like December, January sort of period. So the main thing is no reference letters. So since it is like just in the school, it's in Trinity, you know, teachers, the lecturers can just look up who you are, what your grades are. So that's not an issue. So that makes applying very easy. Last year we filled out a Google Forms, so it was a very short Google Forms. You have to write 1,000 characters on your motivation for applying for the internship. So this would be where you talk about maybe some modules you've done that were relevant to some projects you're interested in, why you want to apply, and then another 1,000 characters on career ambitions. So this would be where you talk about what you want to research, why you think this internship would help you go into that way. And yeah, the fact that this application is sort of later than other ones means that you can just copy paste what you've done before and just adapt it slightly. And since there's no reference letters, it makes it very easy to apply. So that's why even in a 10-day frame, if you've already applied for internships before that, you can just, at least that's what I did, you can just copy paste stuff you've written before and adapt it as necessary. In the application as well, you list the preference of projects, so you do a breakdown of that on the next slide. But you list your preferences, and then whether you get accepted or not is, I guess, based on your preferences. And yeah, this last one is a bit subtle. So the fact that they say your internship is primarily awarded on your SF results, or second year results. I think what that effectively means is if you've got a sufficiently good grade, so I'd say good first. I, for example, had a 78, I think. Second year, 70, 79. Then I think you're more than eligible. And I know for a fact that I wasn't the highest person in the year to get, I didn't get the highest grade in that year, but I applied for sure. So, yeah, I'd say if you have like a first or above, then you're probably in good contention to get these one of the projects that you put down. And also keep in mind things like, typically speaking, students with higher grades can also go for other internships. So don't get put off from applying just because you know that there are people with better grades. I should apply regardless. Okay, the types of projects. So last year there were 13 projects. Only one of them was theoretical. There were 6 computational and 6 experimental. And the projects and professors, they differ every year. There might also sometimes be professors that have multiple projects. So for example, in our year we had Professor Zhang. He had 2 experimental projects, and Professor Dooley had 1 computational and 1 experimental. This, of course, since there are only 7 that were chosen, means that not every professor gets a project. But yeah, as it is. Yeah, so, do keep that in mind. Of course, if you're in TP, then you're probably more inclined to choose the theoretical or computational ones, as opposed to if you're in sciences. So, yeah, just keep that in mind as well. Okay, so what was the actual experience like? Well, I mean, you're here in Dublin, right? And it's not like a structured internship, meaning that there's no requirement of what you need to publish or produce. So if you so choose, you can just do nothing and still get paid. Now, I don't recommend you do that, but I think I've heard someone do that. Anyway, yeah, unlike the one we've heard before, there's actually no requirements of, let's say, a presentation or reports or anything like that. So everything is decided between you and your supervisor. And what that effectively means is you need a lot of self-motivation to do your project. So my personal experience was I usually had weekly meetings with my supervisor. I had Paul Easton, and occasional group meetings as well. I wasn't given a designated workspace, though I've heard of people who are, depending on which group you're in. And for me, I was also the only one working on my project, meaning that I can actually talk to anyone else. The only time, sure, is what it is. And yeah, there's also no expectation of how much you should or shouldn't work. So it's not like you're expected to be, on campus 8 hours a day or, on log. Again, it really depends on your supervisor and essentially how much you want to get done. So the main thing is that you keep in touch with your supervisor, because I can imagine it's very easy to lose track of time and lose track of how much you're doing and just sort of post along the summer doing nothing when you might have wanted to do more than you were doing. Maybe just another point I might add on to there is, you get your acceptances usually before exams and things like that. So I reached out to Easton somewhere towards the end of second semester, and he just said, wait until exams are over and then we'll figure out what to do. So it is good to keep in touch with supervisor even before the internship starts, but things usually properly start after exams are over. So there's no sort of pressure before your exams, but also keep in mind this depends on your supervisor. Okay, so the last thing I'll just talk about is my research. So like I said, I got I was doing a project with Professor Paul Easton. It was the one theoretical project that was there. The name of the project was Quantum Heat Engines, which sounds quite fancy, but effectively it was looking at Bose-Einstein condensation in photons in a optical cavity filled with dye, and then basically the dynamics of that system. So it was a theoretical project for me. There were still some computational aspects involved, but far less than some of the other ones. So I know like all the Astro projects are all computational, and from what I heard, that was essentially glorified data science. So as far as computation go, my project wasn't too much. But yeah, if you guys have any questions about it, then feel free to ask me about that after. And yep, thanks for listening. If you have any questions, that's my email, so you can send me on that, and I'm free to have taking questions now as well. Push off as well, so that was all. Thanks, guys.
Hi guys, my name's Ishna. Hope you can hear me. My voice was a little bit gone today. So first of all, to start, I've become a LinkedIn warrior since last night. So if anyone wants to add me on LinkedIn, it's right there. You can scan it. So I will be talking about the Laidlaw scholarship program. It's the leadership and research program. So basically, Laidlaw is just some really rich guy who has too much money and feels too guilty, so he gives you a lot of money to do research and leadership, basically. And what they're trying to get you to do is become better leaders. So it's an 18-month, fully funded program, and it's aimed to develop your leadership and research skills. And then there's 3 components to this program. So you have summer 1, where you do a research project on a research topic, basically. And then your second one is your Oxford Character Program, where they try to develop research skills for you, leadership skills. And then the third one is a summer 2 project, Leadership in Action, where everything that you've learned through your Oxford project is applied. So the summer 1 research project is fully funded. You get around 3,500 euros to do a 6-week fully funded student-led research project. However, I do know most people do way more than 6 weeks. They're not really strict on that at all. So your project can be international or it can be at home, and it has to be separate work than what you're doing for your undergraduate. So it can't be anything that you've done before or you're going to submit for your 4th-year capstone. And yeah, you get 3,500 euros during the summer 1, and then you can apply for additional funding if you are traveling or if you're going anywhere, basically. And then your summer 2 project is your Leadership in Action project, where you put the leadership skills that you've learned into play to go out and do something. So there's a variety of ways you can do that. Some people go to charities, NGOs, nonprofits. Some people go into like university-led expedition programs, anything that basically just helps society. And there's a lot of ways to do like STEM stuff if you don't want to do anything to like charity or NGO. So that's another 6 weeks, and there you have to go abroad basically, and you also get 3,500 euros, but you also get extra money to do your research project because it is abroad and it has to be overseas. So the application process, you must be in your second year of your degree. So if anyone is in their third or fourth year, you can't apply. But if you're in your second, perfect time. Or if you're in your third year and you're doing an integrated master's. The submission last year opened on the 9th of December and it was up until the 18th of February. You have to get a supervisor to do your research project with in summer 1. You have to get a letter from your supervisor. You have to then submit your proposal for what you want to do your research for in summer 1. So your research project proposal, your leadership and action proposal, a video on leadership and development statement. So there's a lot of things, but you know, it's all worth it in the end. Here are some ideas that I just really quickly put in. So research, just contact professors in Trinity, or if you want to go abroad, you can contact professors outside. Anyone's happy to take you on because they're not paying for you and it's going to be paid through Laidlaw. And then for LIA, these are the central projects that are available through Laidlaw themselves, and then you can do self-funded projects. So here's my experience. I worked with Professor Joanna Voss over in the School of Physics, and I'm an astrophysics student, so I was doing something a little bit different to maybe what you guys are doing. I did a project called Cloudy with a Chance of Exomoons, where I was looking at transiting exomoons around a free-floating brown dwarf. So there are some expectations that comes with this. You have to go to lead days, but that is something you can get around. Like I didn't go to the first 2. I was in Morocco. Don't tell them. And they just asked me to write an essay. There's a global conference. So this is me at the global conference, guys. This was over the weekend. It was really, really fun. That's my poster. The reason it's so small is because they lost my poster. And then I had to get an A4 version printed out. And you can, yeah, crazy stuff. You'd assume that some really rich guy would have enough money to print out posters on time. I also got a little thing here. I'll explain more about that later. This is me. That's Lord Laidlaw. Yeah, he's called Lord Laidlaw because he's a lord and has a shit ton of money. And this is also Lord Laidlaw standing with the saxophone. If he looks like he's passed away, I don't know if he's alive, guys. I think I was just talking to someone. And then I got the opportunity to present my work here. As you can see, I was doing a presentation. And I'm proud to announce that I was one of the 20 people who got chosen to publish my work in Taylor and Francis F1000. So that's why I got a little sticker on it, because my work is getting published in a journal. The last thing is that they want you to do like project reports, reflection exercises, all that stuff. So yeah, that's it. Anyone have any questions? I know there's another Laidlaw scholar coming up. Nope.
All right. Hi guys, my name's Connor. I'm a 4th year TP student and I'm also a Laidlaw scholar. I'm probably going to talk more so about the second summer project. The research has already been mainly talked about. So yeah, here's some stuff that was already given to you, I guess. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to skip through some of this because it's already been talked about. Okay, this is mainly talked about already as well. Yeah, the research project, I mean, I guess what I'll mention about it is that Yeah, it's similar to sort of maybe Shore that Vedant talked about. It's 6 weeks long, but generally people do something more like 10 weeks long ish. Again, it's up to you. You just need to do a minimum of 6 weeks. My personal advice is that, like doing computational and theoretical projects can be difficult because you probably don't have much of a background in this sort of stuff yet. But if you're more interested in that kind of stuff, then maybe apply for a computational or theoretical project. I did an experimental physics project, which I think was good because it probably suited my level of, I suppose, expertise at the time. But I will say that a lot of the problems in the School of Physics with doing super experimental stuff is that as an undergrad, you're quite limited in what you can do without some sort of certification that takes months to get. So obviously you won't be able to really do or like work on some of the things that you wanted to work on. So that can sort of hinder your work. But yeah, each one has its drawbacks and advantages. So I don't know, just have a little think about what you want to do beforehand. Generally is the idea I want to portray. Right, so more so I'll talk about the leadership and action component of this program. So this is what you do in your second summer of the program. So I just did this this summer just gone, summer of 2025. Yeah, so generally you're going to be working for some sort of non-for-profit organization or an NGO or yeah, some basically like, the aim of the project is generally to do something that like helps society in some sort of way. It must be international unless you've done Erasmus, or if you did your research part internationally, or sometimes you can get away with it if you are an international student already. For me, I mean, I did my research here. I didn't go on Erasmus. I'm from Dublin, so kind of had no other option. I had to go abroad, but that was pretty cool. Yeah, well, I know where some previous TPs have gone. CERN, which I think 3 previous TP scholars have gone to, so that seems to be a decent option. And World Science Foundation, that's over in New York. So yeah, like there's lots of options to do things that aren't just working with the NGOs that are given to you or working with some sort of other NGO that you find yourself. There are options to do like science projects, or yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about that now in a sec. Yeah, so generally the 3 different options you have are, so the central projects are what are given to you by Laidlaw. You'll be doing this alongside other Laidlaw scholars, which is good and also bad. I mean, the nice thing about doing it with other people is that, you're gone to a foreign country usually for 6 weeks. You don't know anyone in the city that you're gone to unless you're going with some other Laidlaw scholars. And so, doing a project alone can be kind of maybe intimidating, can be lonely, but at the end of the day, I think you also gain something by doing something yourself and like complete control of it, because after all, the scholarship is about developing your leadership capabilities. Yeah. So the next thing you can do, which is basically just like the self-defined project, which is more so you organize it yourself. So that's what I did. I emailed the guy at CERN and he said I could come, so I said yeah. And yeah, generally that's if you're gonna do this, it's just you send out like 50 emails and you take the best one that gets back to you. You just gotta keep emailing people, because most people, if you email them saying like, hey, I have money to come work for you for 6 weeks, they're probably gonna be like, this is a scam. So yeah. But fortunately enough, there was someone who took me on. And then implementation of research is something that I think only 1 out of the 25 of my year did. So it can be kind of difficult to justify how like you doing this kind of more research can be like immediately beneficial to society. But sometimes it can be. For example, someone I think in my year did Alzheimer's research, and then spent their second summer implementing the research that they did on Alzheimer's. So yeah, I went to CERN. So what I actually did was I went over and I made big educational YouTube video, which is shortly going to be posted on the CERN YouTube page. So I went over I sort of had a little look at what I wanted to make educational content about, and how I made a video about waves and wave physics, and then how that could be related to CERN. So I interviewed a bunch of physicists and engineers. They gave me a lot of very useful info on how a lot of the physics and engineering in the LHC worked, and in another experiment called Awake, which is super cool. I ended just like doing a lot of reading, and then just scripting a video. I spent 6 weeks doing that, which doesn't sound like a lot of work, but yeah, there's a lot of work that went into it. So yeah, and then I basically I didn't even get to film it in the time that I was there because the filming like studio at CERN wasn't available. So they actually flew me back out, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, and then I filmed it, and then it's currently in the editing stage, and hopefully it will be posted by the end of the year. So yeah, what I recommend about doing the LIA, the Leadership in Action project, is that the central projects can be looked on like down upon at the beginning because you're not really organising yourself. And also there can be concerns about like this volunteerism thing. You know, you take a lot of people from like some of the top universities in the world, usually very like wealthy people, or I mean on average I'm talking about, I suppose. And you put them into like lower income countries, and it can generally not really look great. But the organizations seem to actually handle things quite well. The projects get run quite smoothly a lot of the time. Whereas if you're like taking on a project and organizing it yourself, there are a lot of things that like can go wrong. You know, like Laidlaw does a lot of work to make sure that if they're going to organize something for you, that it's going to be run right. So I actually said the central projects are not a bad option. I think everyone who went on one had a really good time and felt that they actually like made a difference and contributed. Yeah, so the leadership placement, again, it's riskier, but again, if you actually do something that you really want to do, and maybe you don't really want to work in an NGO, maybe you want to do something more like I did, a bit more physics or maths oriented or something like this, that can be a really good option. But yeah, be aware that you really need to be organized. You really need to make sure that what you're going to do is, you just need to make sure that it's not going to, quote unquote, go wrong, which usually doesn't happen, I swear. And then, implementation of research, almost nobody does, but if you can find something that you can, if you do research and you can find a way to implement it, and Laidlaw team internally say, go ahead, then, it'll be fun. Some other things to mention are, the conference was mentioned before. I went to Leeds. 2023 was in Trinity, 2024 was in Leeds, and this year was in Durham, I think, was it? I'm not sure. And then that's always super fun. And they pay for you to go over and everything, so that's pretty cool. The Oxford Character Program is great. It's great. Sorry, is a strong word. It's something. I'm not going to mention anything other than that. The lead days can actually be useful sometimes. They teach you some actually like quite useful skills on them. Sometimes you're going to be sitting there kind of going, this isn't really what I want to be getting out of the program, and maybe there can be better ways to do it. And sometimes they teach you public speaking skills, which are quite useful. They teach you project management skills, which can be helpful. They're not. There's some bad things and there's some good things. Then there's also a Laidlaw Scholars Ventures thing, which is basically like if you have a startup, they can just like give you money for it, which is pretty cool. And only, like, you're only able to get into it if you're a Laidlaw scholar. So, yeah, it's a big 50 million fund. And then all the profit that goes back, like, from it goes back into the Laidlaw Scholars Program, which is nice. And yeah, there's a bunch of other nice little, like, opportunities or things you can do with Laidlaw that are nice if you look into them. So, yeah. This is just the funding, which I think has been brought up before. Yeah, you're not going to lose out on money by doing the program at any point. Like, things will generally be paid for you. Yeah, you can always extract the 1900. Even if you don't need the 1900, you can always get it by the end by just asking for it. So that's kind of guaranteed income. Yeah, and then here's some stuff for the application, but I think this is again kind of been talked about. Yeah, you'll apply and then you'll be asked to interview, and then the interview is quite grand. It's just a 5-minute talk basically to make sure you're not like a robot. And then it's after that it's then you have some sort of group interview to see how you interact with other people. Yeah. Overall, I'd recommend the scholarship. Some of the stuff can be annoying, but the opportunities to do the 2 summer programs is just invaluable. And you can also do because you can organize when you want to do the internship yourself. Like, that's up to you and your supervisor. You can generally fit in doing another internship on top of whatever else you're doing that summer. So, for example, I did this, and then I also did like another 10-week internship at DIAS this summer. So, if you are really proactive, you can. Like, I knew some of the computer science scholars did like I don't know. One of them worked at they did Laidlaw, and then they also worked at Microsoft those summers. So like you can actually do other internship projects on top of this, which is super useful if you're like really into building on CV. Yeah, that's me. So that's funny. Any questions? Not about this. I didn't do this. Yeah. I think if they can, no, actually, that is definitely not true. I wonder if I should tell this story. Yeah, I should. No, basically, one of the scholars this summer went to a very experimental / potentially illegal shark lab. So, yeah, it was definitely just yeah. But, yeah, I mean, that was, I think, one of the things, that was the self-defined project that kind of went wrong this summer. They generally will, I think they'll check, but I mean, you can kind of that particular scholar put into their application, an application such that they believe that this was a good thing to do. So yeah, I think actually the advice is maybe be honest with the Laidlaw team internally. They're actually quite sound generally, and they will they can do a lot of the vetting for you. That if you're not sure, you can lie to them if you really want to do a project. But I mean, I wouldn't advise that. So yeah, they can do a lot of the vetting of an organization to make sure that they're actually sound to work with, which is pretty useful. But yeah, I mean, as long as you have a plan, and I don't think there's going to be much of an issue saying oh, this organization isn't super well established. Any other questions? No? Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I did the Hamilton Trust project, or internship, whatever you want to call it. It is offered by the School of Maths. Where's the key? Oh, it's underneath here. Who is it for? It's for you guys, as long as you're a student of the School of Maths. What I mean by that is if you're a joint honors maths student, a maths student, or a GP student. So this is the payments depending. So you can do this project as a solo person, you can do it as a pair, and you can do it as 3 people. And as you may have noticed, you get less money the more people are in the project. But what I have been told is that you're possibly more likely to get accepted for this internship if you are in a group, because they pay you less. So it is offered to second, third, and fourth years. It is a 6-week program. Somewhere between May and June, you'll get an email from it. It's run by Marvin Han, who's a lecturer from the School of Maths. You might get an email about it at some point early second semester about this. So how the process for applying for it works is that you are going to reach out to some sort of professor and kind of discuss what sort of project you might want to do with this professor, and then you have to write up some sort of proposal for this project that you want to do. The proposal is anonymous. The only thing you put on is the name of the professor and the actual project you want to do. So you don't have to worry about your grades or whether you're a second or third or fourth year, which is a nice part about this internship. And so you write that up, and then you send it off to Marvin, and you might get accepted. Organize weekly meetings with your supervisor while you're doing this project. Weekly. I only saw my professor like 3 or 4 times. And then you have to give 2 presentations, one at the start and one at the end. You have to do a 15-minute presentation, and that is even if you are project of 3. In that case, you'll have to do a 45-minute presentation each time. And you'll have to also make a poster project and a final report, which is not due until after the 6-week program is finished. Why you might consider it, it is a good research experience with non-intensive hours. It is very much up to you, similar to Shaw, where you kind of just pick your own hours. It's basically you get as much out of this as you put into it. It's a good chance of you have a good chance of getting accepted if it's a decent proposal, because, as I said, it's anonymous. It is entirely dependent on what you write in your proposal, and you'll learn like good communication presentation skills because, as I said, it's mandatory 2 presentations and a poster presentation as well, and it gives you insight into what professional research might be like. Emphasis, obviously, it's offered by the School of Mathematics, and so there's an emphasis on the mathematics, but it's not that deep. Also, I do want to emphasize that the professor you work with does not have to be a maths professor. I did it with a professor from the School of Physics. You can do it with the School of Economics or whatever, but you have to be a maths student. As I said, you go up. I would recommend going to the lecturer's offices in person. It's a lot easier, and you actually get to interact with them in person rather than sending a bunch of emails. That's kind of slower. That's kind of what I did for a lot of my approach for getting these proposals. And obviously, you're a second year or third year or fourth year. You're probably not going to have an idea of what project you want to do. The professor was generally going to give you an idea of what projects you might be doing. And also, it's a 6-week project. Don't expect a huge amount from it. This is my poster. This is a sample of what you might be expected. We threw this together in like the day before it was due, so it's very low intensive. As I said, you get in as much as you put in. Yeah. So nobody really expects a huge amount from what you. It's basically very low intensity. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah. Yes. I guess you can. No? Okay, then never mind. Any other questions? Cool.
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Carly, and I'm going to be talking to you about the DIAS Summer Studentship. Just a quick show of hands, who here knows what DIAS is? Oh, great, loads of people. Well, for anyone who doesn't, it's the Dublin Institute for Advanced Studies. Particularly, I will be speaking about the School of Theoretical Physics, but they do have other streams as well. You may be wondering why I'm not in this photo, since I was doing the internship. I promise I did do the internship, just missed the photo day, but yeah. Okay, so what do you need to do to apply? It's pretty straightforward. I think most applications are early in the year, but DIAS is quite late. So I think I applied in a days, like a couple of weeks, maybe a week before the exams, kind of blacked out, and then got an email afterwards saying I'd been accepted, so yay. But basically you need a letter of recommendation from just a senior-ish member of the faculty. You need to have obviously an updated CV with all the relevant information, and you need to have good academic transcripts. That's probably the main thing. They need to know that you're a reasonably good student. And then you just write one essay stating your interest in the particular chosen area of research that you're applying for. So for me, that was quantum gravity, but they have M theory, a lot of different stuff. Yes, it is a requirement that you're in line for a first-class honours degree. So I think the letter from the member of faculty will also need to state that, so make sure you pick a lecturer that likes you. Okay, so then that's it. There's no interview process. They'll just check your application and see if they think you're suitable. If you get the internship, that's great. You get a 300 or 3,000 euro stipend for 2 months while you're working there, which is nice. So maybe like 80 to 85% of the time you will be working with your supervisor on your given project. This could be just you and your supervisor, or you could be in a group. It just kind of depends on who applies and who gets what. So I was working by myself, but Connor, who was speaking earlier, was also there, and he was working in a group of 3, so it really just depends. They also have weekly seminars where they bring in physicists from all over the world, and mostly online, that they talk to you about whatever they're doing. And actually, you get to go to those even after you leave. We're still getting the weekly emails. So we also had a weekly journal club with other interns where everyone is kind of discussing their projects, and this was run by the PhD students that work at DIAS. So it was a nice opportunity to sort of see what the other interns were doing, learn a little bit about their research, and I found personally that it usually helped me understand whatever I didn't understand about my own project, which I could then bring back into whatever I was doing. So overall, I guess it's a good experience, or a good example of what a life in research would be like if that's the path that you want to go down. They also had some social events like game nights, movie nights, things like that, which is no harm at all. It's kind of a small enough community in DIAS, so you get to know everyone quite well. And then at the end of your internship, you present whatever you've been doing over the last 8 weeks to the group of people at DIAS and whoever else off the street wants to show up. I'm not joking. Chowlin appeared. It was interesting. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think it's fairly straightforward. Why is DIAS a good option? I think it's good experience in preparation for doing your capstone project. You really get an idea of the kind of thing that you want to do. It's an opportunity to network with other physicists, specifically theoretical physicists in Dublin, just to connect a bit more with that community. You learn a lot, probably more than you do in college, or that's my opinion anyway. And it also looks great on your CV. You might even get something published out of it. So for me, I ended up staying on with my supervisor from DIAS, and I'm still working with him now on a kind of a tangent to the project we did over the summer for my capstone. And hopefully at the end of that, we will get a published paper out of it, which can't hurt. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. If you have any questions or you want to talk to either me or any of the other interns, just send me an email. You can also check, probably won't click on this link, but if you look up the DIAS website, you can see all of the previous interns and their reports from the end of their internship. So it just might give you a better idea of the different types of projects that are available. So the most recent ones are ours, but you can go back as many years as you want. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah? That's a great question. I think it was the end of June, for like 2 months. I think it was around about then. I was doing Hamilton as well, and I remember they kind of flashed for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think that was about the end of June. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, as I say, if something occurs to you, just shoot me an email, and thank you very much.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so I did the Tyndall and IPIC summer fellowship program in Cork, and it was really nice. Like, I really enjoyed the experience. Tyndall is like really relaxed. It's like there's a really, really nice atmosphere there, and there's about almost like 30 interns. So it just was like a nice environment with loads of other interns from Cork, Trinity, Galway, everywhere in Ireland. So the Tyndall program is 12 weeks, and it's basically a 12-week paid supervised research project, which is important to mention because I know a lot of people didn't apply last year because they thought it wasn't paid enough and they wouldn't be able to afford to live in like Cork City. But you do get paid basically based on minimum wage for like a 40-hour work week, which is really nice. So I was able to afford like accommodation, live in Cork, because I didn't know anyone in Cork, but I was able to afford it completely, and had some money left over and everything, which is nice. And you basically just work with a supervisor. That's me and my supervisor there. We did like a mixture of lab work and computational work. And there's also this development program alongside it, which was really good. I thought it was like a really good mix of different things as well. They had like loads of talks with PhD students and how to like get into a PhD in Tyndall. And I think like most people who did this fellowship, they kind of said to us, if you want to do a PhD, they'll like give you as much help as possible to do a PhD with them in Tyndall, which is really nice. And it was nice to get the experience of what it'd be like to do a PhD there. There's also then like career talks with people who went into industry as well. So like there was the other side of things where like if you didn't want to do a PhD, they like gave us talks about like if you want to go into industry, this is what these people did. We also got like professional headshots, which is nice for your LinkedIn if you want. We also did then like these optional workshops. Most of these things were optional, but I did try to do most of them just because it was a good experience. So we did like workshops in machine learning and laser design, and there was like a biophotonics one as well. And then they also had like lab tours going on every week, so you could like go and see the different labs that you weren't working in, and like everyone there was really nice. Like everyone was happy. Like if you reached out to someone and wanted to see their lab, they would probably be like, yeah, you can come in and I'll like explain what I do, whatever. And for the laser design workshop, actually, we did like a group project, which was nice. Again, it was optional, but like it was nice to work in a group with other like students. And we actually did like a kind of crossy road simulation game type thing, which was fun to do like alongside my own project. Yeah, and this was kind of like what my timetable looked like for the first 6 weeks. So it was 12 weeks. So this is the first 6 weeks, kind of similar for the second 6 weeks. Again, I signed up basically for every workshop. So I was just like, I may as well while I'm here. And it's also nice to break up your day in between like doing your own research, because a lot of mine is like computational stuff. So I was just like working in the office. So it was nice then to have like other stuff throughout the day to go to if I had other stuff on. So yeah, I did a lot of meetings. Sri was my supervisor. So like the way my project worked is that I was like working myself in the like computer room with all the interns. Then I'd meet her like once or twice a week, update her, and then she would like tell me how to improve, what I need to do next, whatever. So in 2025, there was 24 projects offered. It might vary depending year on year, depending how many supervisors they have. But they have like a load of different types of projects that you can choose from. And so that's the list of the different kind of topics that they work in. And this is the project that I did. It was in the biophotonics group, but it kind of ended up not being very biophotonics related, like biology related, even though that's what I thought it was going to be. Since she kind of heard that I was like a theoretical physicist, I basically just ended up coding in Python because she was like, oh, that's what you can do. I'm going to just get you to do all my Python. And it was like a good experience to like improve my Python, but I didn't really see the biophotonics side of things. So this is probably what you're most interested in, is the actual application timeline. In December, the applications will open. Usually the School of Physics send an email to everyone with the application. And the application form was actually like probably one of the easiest applications that I did anyway. You basically just rank your top 3 project choices they send out this big PDF with all like 25 projects, whatever. You just read through them, choose whatever 3 you think you would like to do. Then you write like a short statement on why you want to do your project and why you want to do it in Tyndall. You send them your CV, but there's no references. So I think I literally did it like a few nights before it was due, like it's very quick. You fill out this little form. And then it closed last year on the 31st of January. And then I think they didn't contact you until maybe March. Or maybe a bit before March, because my interview then was on the 6th of March, and then you receive your offer pretty quickly after. It's a quick turnaround, which is nice. So you kind of find out pretty quickly if you got it or not, and then in June you'll begin the actual internship. Yeah, that's kind of all for me. Do you have any questions? Yeah? Every year, actually. Even if you're in first year, you can apply for this. And fourth years, there was first years, second, third, and fourth years there, which is really nice. Yeah? There was actually a good mix of theoretical and experimental. There was a lot of experimental. If you read through the projects, you can kind of tell which is going to be an experimental one or theoretical. But like we had like an intern computer room, which was kind of nice. I'd say there's about 10 of us in that. So that would be all the like computational projects. Okay, thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Alvaro, I'm a 4th year theoretical physics student, and I'm going to talk to you about the DAAD scholarship that I did this summer in the Cluster of Excellence SimTech in the University of Stuttgart. So first of all, you guys will have seen from Isabel's presentation that German people, they love acronyms. So the DAAD and RISE are both acronyms. So what exactly are they? So the DAAD is the Deutsche Akademische Außendienst, which, for those of you who don't know German, it's just the German Academic Exchange Service. Also, sorry for my German, it's not good, but it is what it is. It was founded in 1925, and they call themselves the world's largest funding organization for the international exchange of students and researchers, which basically means that they have a lot of fun. They essentially, their whole philosophy of why they have so much funding and why they want so many foreign people is that they say, oh, we want Germany to have great researchers and good people. So we're going to fund people to come to Germany and stay here, very bright and talented people to come here, so that they will stay in the ecosystem and they will improve everything here. And they also send people abroad so they can learn what they're doing in the other universities where they're at, and so they can bring it back, and so Germany as a whole can improve more. Now, the internship that I applied to and that I got in was the research internship in science and engineering. This is a very special internship because it's not a kind of DESY, CERN, or Tyndall, where there's this big center that does some projects and just puts them to the public. What essentially they do is they have the universities and the research centers talk to them and say, oh, I want one intern, I want 2 interns. And then the DAAD, what it does is contact people who want internships with the centers who want people to go there. And so it's a 3-month stay, like most of the internships here, where you will be in a research institute or your university in Germany. For more specialized fields, like biology or earth sciences, I knew people who were in museums or in hospitals working. So it's not only limited to universities, and it can also be a step towards getting more into research via Max Planck Institute or getting more into industry, like the museum thing, or maybe in Aachen, they work a lot with modern companies. They're very interdisciplinary. There's not only physics projects, there's also engineering projects, CS projects, chemistry, biology, and earth sciences. Although people here in the TPSA, I think most of you guys will be interested in the physics one. I didn't see while applying an insane selection of theoretical projects, but they were at least 5 or 6 projects that you could apply for that were theoretical. Now, as I said, in universities, you're getting linked, and the people who will want these interns are basically PhD students generally, because they'll want someone to tell them, okay, do this for me, code this. So, because I want it for my thesis. And so, just how do I apply? The deadline is November 30th. So it's so it closes pretty soon. So I will get going if you guys want to apply for it. You can apply to 3 different projects in the website. You can also only apply to one if you just want to go to one. But I would recommend just applying to 3 to see what you can get. So who can apply to it? If you're a student in the UK, Ireland, US, or Canada, you guys are studying Trinity, so you can apply. Although when you see people that did the program, 90, 80% were from either the US or Canada. There was only 4 people who came from Ireland. This is one of them. This is Sam. He was in UCD. I didn't find the other 2. And you need to have had 2 years of undergrad studies, but you cannot be in your final years. Only second years and third years can apply. Actually, if you are in third year, I would say you have more of a chance to get it, because especially for physics, because they want you to have more knowledge than if you have a second year. But some projects like engineering or CS, if you know how to code, it's pretty probable that they will take you in. And the requirements, they're the same ones as all: motivation letter, CV, transcript, list of courses, certificate of enrollment for Trinity, and a letter of reference. The good thing about this is that the letter of reference is due the December 15th, not November 30th. So you have more time if your supervisor doesn't want to give you the letter, or doesn't answer the emails on time. Now, what is included in the scholarship? This QR code leads you to the website where you can apply for the program. And it is quite good for money. It is 996 euros per month as a stipend, so you don't get taxed on it. And unless you're living in either Munich or Berlin, rent should be between 300 and 500 euros. It's not like Dublin where rent prices are insane. For example, I was in Stuttgart and I was paying 400 something euros a month for rent. So with 500 euros, you can live in Germany. It's also cheaper than Ireland. You get 400 euros for traveling, and they give you 160 euros to travel to the annual meeting in Heidelberg, which was honestly one of the best things of the whole experience. And the 160 euros, a bit, if you're very far away, like in Berlin, you will actually spend the 160 euros on trains. But if I was like me, Stuttgart is very close, and I had some friends that were in Karlsruhe, you basically can go there for free. And it includes insurance and the trip. So, why should you apply to the DAAD scholarship. Have you seen that? No, but in all seriousness, it grants you more of a research experience because you're there as an intern more than a summer student. For example, I was working alongside master students and another intern, the one in the middle, the short one. She was a US student that was doing the Fulbright scholarship, and it was four of us in we're the goblins of our PhD students, we always said, because we did all the coding work for him, and we were helping him, and it was a really research environment, and you really get to see what it is to do a PhD student and all of this. It's also quite good because being that close to it and being only one member, they're able to sneak you into some places. Like I went to a conference by the SimTech group where all of the PhD people in the group and the professors, they just put us all in a hotel and they did talks and poster sessions, and we could go around there and seeing what it is to be in a real conference. I also got some experience doing talks. This is me giving a talk in Heidelberg about my project that I did. And it was very good. It honestly motivated me a lot to see what research is about and to try to further continue it. It's also great for meeting people. Like, this is all of the people that were in the program. Oh, I didn't say. It's 250 people get accepted into the program. Most of this are American, but it is a very big program, and they just put all of these people in a hostel in Heidelberg, and they do conference with each other. So it's a great networking opportunity, this trip. You're going alone there, essentially. So you get dropped in this random German town where you don't know anyone. So, it helps you, like, get a bit out of your comfort zone and try to meet people. For example, the first week I found the Erasmus students that were in Stuttgart. And those were essentially my friends for the first 3 weeks. So it gets you a bit going. This is kind of the Stuttgart group that I had, plus some people. One of the fellows was in Karlsruhe, and they were in Düsseldorf and other places. And then this is for Stuttgart gang. And this is a conference that I went to, that it was like an exchange thing in Saarbrücken. Most of you don't know where it is, not relevant. It's close to the French border, but nothing there. And it was an exchange thing between the German Physics Society and other physics societies that my PhD told me about, and I went there. So I got to meet some people. One of those is an ETH student who I became friends with, and I might go to Berlin to his place to see what the crack was about around there. So you end up meeting more people and having a good experience. Plus traveling. Traveling in Germany is amazing. Your internship, it's kind of a 9-to-5 job where you go at 9, leave at 5, and don't have to do as much work in between. So you can use the weekends for traveling. And the Deutschland ticket is brilliant for that. You pay 60 euros a month, and you can use all of the public transport in Germany. So you can jump regional trains and go completely for free. I went to Strasbourg for free. The trip for Heidelberg was also included in the Deutschland ticket. I went to CERN to see CAS. That actually, the Swiss trains cost me a bit, but it was not as much. And yeah, it's a great opportunity also to spend your summer there, traveling cheaply, going to hostels and Flixbuses, which are also not expensive. Now, what was my project? I'm going to keep it very brief because it's very CS, computer CS sciencey. It's basically, Raspberry computers are a new machine learning project that instead of having a very complicated neural network to do it, you try to fit it to a physical system and let it physically evolve. And then you read out the data and just fit it a linear regression. So you're using physics to try to predict stuff instead of having abstract neural networks that just live on a manifold that you have no clue what it is. And this guy, the guy with the glasses, is Mario Gaiman. He was my supervisor. That's me. And that's the other intern that she was there the whole year doing the Fulbright scholarship. and it is also at the Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria. So the project was very computer science, and it's useful, but not as much. But it did teach me a lot. It taught me how to work in high-performance computing. We had all to connect to a workstation. It was also quite funny, because I was talking to my supervisor, and he told me, well, have you ever done tests? And I said, no. Okay, so the program that you write, you're going to write some tests from it. So I also ended up learning how to do tests. I worked a lot with Get. We managed all of the project with Get. I did highly optimized Python code, which is mostly embedded in C and C++, which is horrible. I do not recommend it, just code in C++. But I did learn how to do that in some libraries like Numba. I did get a segmentation call in Python, which for those who know CS, you need to work hard to get that. And I did many body simulations, like the one you see here, and some machine learning. So this is what the project was mainly about. We tried fitting, well, this is what I worked with is doing some shapes on top of this driver. And the driver followed a chaotic attractor like the Lorentz attractor. And what you did is you had the driver in a more advanced position and the swarm that followed it. And you tried to coarse grain the area where the particles were, and through some machine learning model, you were able to predict the time series. And it worked very well, actually. Pearson coefficient 80, 90%. So very good. And I think it was an amazing experience, and I would recommend every single one of you, second and third years, to apply and spend your summer in Germany. So, thank you very much. Any questions? Late, oh yes. You found out in late January. I actually do not know when you need to respond, but I assume February, because I had a very special case where I was shortlisted for it, and then someone dropped out in April, so they sent me an offer in April and told me you need to accept it ASAP. And I did, and I ended up in Stuttgart. But I would assume it's probably the normal 2 weeks of courtesy or something like that. Any other question? Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Hi guys. I guess I'm past. This is the last one, so I don't need somebody from laughing too much. So yeah, I went to Oxford not last summer, the summer beforehand. So a little bit of an overview. I'm going to talk about what life is like at Oxford, what the internship actually is, eligibility and application, which is a bit of an interesting one, and what Oxford as a place actually is like. So yeah, there are two main internship programs that you can go for. So the first isn't just like regular physics. So it covers topics like computational particle physics, biophysics, astro. Actually, the astro stuff you should talk to or watch the SETI part of the YouTube video last year. Condensed matter physics, atmospheric physics, and then the TP part of it, which was particle physics, which is what I was doing. Condensed matter physics is a bit of an interesting one. The guy who's in my office that was working in condensed matter physics had like this weird graph theory thing that he was products. It's not real. You can also do plasma stuff, which I think is actually one that anyone who isn't in third year should really consider. It requires no quantum, not really any of the prerequisites. I guess also, actually I might mention that later. But yeah, so the internship itself is this undergraduate research opportunities program. I'm pretty sure there are like a good few around the UK, but this one's clearly the best. Yeah, I mean, not to be like, oh, Oxford and Cambridge are so great or whatever, but they pay a lot of money, and for that they get some of the best minds in the world. You're working in like one office building with pretty much all of them. You get to go to like research meetings with them. There's daily coffee meetings, so you get to probe some very interesting people who have worked in the forefront of physics for decades. Alongside that, you're also working with like still students, so it gives you a very different lens as to how people approach physics from our age group. You also get, I think, maybe a little bit of a chip in your shoulder because they get like so much, I suppose, so many resources and stuff that we just don't get because they have like hundreds of years of money. Anyway, yeah. So the facilities that you get, they're like pretty cool. I'll probably go on a little bit more on those pictures, but they have like their own TP library, different like kitchens on different floors, sort of silent reading rooms and stuff. Yeah, my own experience was, I think, I think I've enjoyed that a lot more than what I was doing this summer. You have a very, I guess, relaxed environment. You can go to these like group meetings, and you probably should. You're working with like postdocs for the most part, which is pretty handy. Like they're really the people who know what's going on. The PhD students are, getting into it, but having done your PhD in maybe 2-3 years of working as a researcher, it really gives you an opportunity to probe what life is like in the long run. For instance, it seems relatively easy to get a PhD compared to postdocs, especially in those sort of places. So, like if you're in Trinity, or at least at Trinity School of Maths, your main research experience looking at professors are in like string theory and other areas of like high energy physics, high energy theory. And you might think, oh, well, that's not very funded. It's difficult to get a PhD. But once you have a PhD, I'm fine. And you're definitely not fine. It's impossible. So I guess when you're talking to people like that, you can see, okay, well, I know now that computation is definitely the way to go. They say things like, if you want to go on the academia train, but you're thinking of getting off, get off after the PhD. Every postdoc you do after that is just like, it's going to decrease your career value to potential employers, because that's time you could have been spending being like an employee in industry instead of writing papers or whatever. But yeah, so a bit more about the internship itself. The timing is during summer. However, it feels a bit weird. It's sort of shifted a little bit later, and definitely can be. That's because Oxford's summer starts in June, when they have all their exams, and ends in October. So it can be a bit weird, because you can come in like in June after like a month off from exams, and you're ready to hit them, and you're talking to people who are there from Oxford or Cambridge or whatever, and they're like dead tired. So you get a pretty good head start on them from a work point of view. But yeah, it's normally like 9 or 10 weeks. I would say if you can like, do as much as you possibly can there. The environment is beautiful. The people you can meet are amazing. Yeah, the pay is pretty decent. It's like £400 a week. I just asked the School of TP what I should do for accommodation, and they put me in touch with these people who gave me accommodation for a decent price. If you then go to Tesco in the city centre and you just buy pasta, you can actually save up quite a good amount of money. Also, don't go if you go anywhere outside of Oxford by train, like that's a week pay gone. So, I guess you're in this like beautiful building with chalkboards everywhere, and I guess it's like that because they don't want you to leave, and you really shouldn't. Like that building is open 24 hours a day. There are people, well, I was there over 12 hours a day, because I had nothing else to do, but you'll see people like wandering around, so it is relatively normal. It's also, I mean, like, all of those, there's what, like 4 floors. Each of these floors have a wraparound thing like this. Then you have, I think, maybe 2 or 3 rooms each floor where all of the walls are just chalkboards. And each of them has like Hagoromo everywhere. So it like the office I was working with the other interns, again, chalkboard. It's it's really nice from a TP point of view, I guess. So on I guess a more unfortunate note, the eligibility is pretty rough. Insofar as one, you have to have the right to work in the UK, so it means you're either a UK or Irish citizen. Physics undergrad, so I'm pretty sure British third years could do it. How that translates to Irish programs, I'm not sure, because they are all in integrated masters. But I'd say if anyone's in second, third, or fourth year, definitely try. In fact, I would say if you're, I'm not sure if I go into anything else, but if you're in second year, I would definitely go for it. I think that the strat is to lock in really hard in first semester of second year, get like extremely high grades, get the internship, and then relax in the second half of second year and allow yourself to burn out a bit. Because if you get that in second year, especially in areas like plasma physics, the computational experience you get is huge, and coming out of it into your next year. So like, you know, I was doing like particle physics stuff while largely it was computational, and I think that duality, like those two, allowed me to get CERN relatively easily. Also, because you're in such a place that values like research and publications and so much, if you're in like the chalk building for like 12 hours a day, there's a decent chance you can get like, a preprint out of it, which is, I got it, well, yeah, so I suppose I know for a fact that my supervisor in the last couple of years has like 3 or 4 other ones. So it's a pretty common enough experience. Yeah, the application is relatively easy to do as far as like it's 1-pager, so get good with basic margins, I suppose. You have to talk about your choice of supervisor, any relevant experience, and anything related to computation. Like realistically, that's the path to go for. I think, as Alvaro was saying, the job of like, summer interns at this rate is just to do other people's coding for them. So if you can say that you're good at coding, really go for it. Exam results and letter recommendation. So the fields you can go for are, again, okay, I make fun of kinetic matter theorists in that sense, but it is actually interesting stuff. And the way of doing it is pretty cool, skills you learn. That being said, if you're a second year and you don't have much experience with quantum mechanics or field theory, go for plasma physics. It's like obviously not easy, but given your prerequisites, it's the one to go for. Also, they're very heavy on like computational stuff, so it's pretty good. Unfortunately, Oxbridge really care about results, even after the internship. Like, I'm not sure how many of you guys were at Alex Farron's talk like a week or 2 ago, but like these guys care so much about grades. That number determines your worth more than they ever should. Unfortunately, if you want to go for it, you have to play the game. So locking in for the first half of the year is definitely, I think, the way to do it. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but it's like, I think January, February, like due date, and then I got my answer back at the beginning of April. So they only have like your second semester, first semester, second year to go on. So if that looks like amazing, then you're set. And you can get the other ones, I guess. It doesn't matter. You're already in there. And then in the next, and for your internship in third year, people see, oh my god, this person must be good, right? Oxford as a place, I think, is actually amazing if people have the ability to go there anyway. on all, or if you're going through England or whatever, I really would recommend it. The architecture is beautiful, homogeneously across the entire city. There's no, like, well, actually, there's, like, localized versions of those, but very few of them. And even the people there don't like them. But you have all these, like, you have all these, like, old college buildings around the place, and it's great like that. Yeah, really nice people. There's one guy there that I met who was, I think, probably the smartest person I've ever met. I can tell stories, but like, he was easily also the most humble person I've ever met. Not even in the fake way, in the, like, really sincerely cares about other people way. So yeah, like, and also, I suppose the internship itself doesn't organize any social events. I guess it's a TP internship. They know who they're catering to. But you are working in relatively close space with people, so you will probably get to know them. Like, I was there for 8 or 9 weeks, and I think maybe the first 4 or 5 weeks, I didn't socialize with anyone. I didn't need to until I was, like, kind of prompted to. And then my work, like, step function down, so maybe do or do not socialize. But yeah, it's also surprisingly good nightlife. There's, like, bars and clubs that are open in the summer. They have 2 spoons, and they're both excellent. Also, like, way cheaper than in Dublin as well. It's really beautiful. The parks are beautiful. You're actually, if you do go for the accommodation that I got, you have, like, the physics building is here, and your accommodation is, like, here. This is like a 5-minute walk, and there's a giant park in the middle. And like a giant park in the middle on University Park that, like, the Oxford cricket team will practice at and everything. And it's, like, stunning. There's a load of them around the place. I would really recommend going on walks. Also, the weather is surprisingly nice. But yeah, and then you also get free admission to colleges, so you get to view all the beautiful architecture from the inside, which is also pretty rare because usually people they don't have the connection to go for these. They have to, like, go book tours or whatever. There is also technically, like, the college, like, dinners and breakfasts that technically I don't think there's anything stopping you from just walking in and taking. I didn't, but I was tempted to. So if you do, you can definitely try. And the Botanical Gardens also is really, really nice. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it I wanted to say. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah. You need. I would recommend it. Yeah, like, realistically. Okay, I mean, I guess you can firmly follow it, but, like, it's Oxford. You have everyone that has the right to work in the UK is eligible technically. So you're going to get a load of people. I think there was something in the order of 5 conditions. Yeah, something on that order anyway. So if you say, okay, is it required? Not necessarily. That being said, you would probably want the most you can. So, like, if you can do anything. Like, one example would be if you take an ACM homework, it's doing scattering stuff now. You can take that, run with it, and try to build something out of it to put down. That will be an example. If you have 1 page, so you don't have that much room, which I guess is good if you don't have that much to put down. Well, I would still recommend, like, trying to get as much as you can to really make it as possible. And then once you have that, like, it definitely makes life easier going forward. Yeah. That being said, like, it's my fault because I gave the talk pretty much the same talk last year, and I'm not sure if not that many people applied, but no one got it, and like that's not a. Maybe I'm fear mongering a bit too much. I really think that people should apply. Realistically, if you're physical sciences, don't go for the TP one. Go for the School of Physics one, or the Department of Physics. The building isn't as nice, but you are beside it, so I guess you can go see the chalkboards, but you don't work there. But from what I understand, like it's a lot. I think it's a lot simpler to get into because you're not competing with the like. Usually, the people in like Nat Sciences in Cambridge, which is their like physics degree and stuff like that, are going to gravitate towards the like really theory ones. So it is, from what I can understand, because I have spoken to people from like Queen's who did get the other one, the physics one here. From what I understand, it is simpler and they have more funding to get more people. The really nice building there is the CP one, and just behind it is that giant park, and just to your right, being out of frame is the I can't remember the name. Clarendon Laboratory. So the outside of it looks nice, and the inside of it looks like hell. It's very cool. It's not nice, guys. Anyway, I would recommend going for that one probably more. Yeah, I think that's it. To cut my rant short, I really think people should apply to it. It's not that hard it's not that much of a commitment to actually make make that application. I'd say just go for it. The only caveat actually is that they really specify in a quite a weird way that you have to put down every single result for an exam that you took in undergrad. So if anyone has like unconventional or like electives or something like that, you just have to put that down for whatever reason. But it's on the bottom or something like it is a bit of a weird one. But they don't ask for a transcript as well, so I don't know. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? Yeah. As in from like a right to work point of view, or like they do a lot of fear mongering, I guess, and like they specify you have to have a right to work, and then once you're accepted, they're like instantly now you have to prove that you have the right to work and stuff. But like it's fine, they'll sort out the things eventually. The only thing is though you have to, because it isn't. I said £410 a week or whatever. It's not tax free, so you need to register with what is it? Whatever the name of their revenue or tax commission is, which means you need to go to an office somewhere and meet with them for whatever reason. And I had to go to like Southampton to do it, which is like a 2-hour trip, which costs like something like £60 or something. But I got it reimbursed from them. So it can be a bit of a pain. You have to take like a day off to do that. But other than that, I think Irish citizens are fine. Does anyone else have any other questions? Oh, okay, please do go for it. I really believe that like people can get it. They just don't try. They just don't like believe in themselves enough. Also, I think actually regarding the letter of recommendation, last thing, and then I swear I'll leave. I think this kind of holds for a lot of the internships that we've spoken about today. There are usually two types of letter of recommendation that you want to go for. One talks about your character, and one talks about your academics or your research capabilities. Say, like for instance, the choice is a bit more apparent when you get to like master's level, where if you're going for like an academic only point of view, like applying to like Oxford or Cambridge for the masters, you want to go with someone who knows like you got good grades, has a good name, like someone who's reputable. But if you're talking about scholarships, or in this case, I believe stuff like this, you really want to go with someone who knows who you are and can speak to you as a person. Like, because they put so much weighting on results, like everyone I spoke to was in like the top few, or at least top like percent or so in their year. So they really care about that. So your application should, or your reference letter should really talk about like how you are as a person and the fact that you're not an asshole effectively. So if anyone has if professors know you particularly well as a person rather than as like a good grade, I'd recommend going for that. But yeah, just keep that in mind when you're applying to all the internships. So yeah, thank you. And
all right. So yeah, thanks again to all of the speakers. Oh, well, the room is way emptier than it was when we started. This is unfortunate. So anyway, thanks again to all the speakers, especially the ones that are still here. As the last thing, before I let everyone go, I'm sure we're all excited to leave. But yeah, so as was mentioned at the beginning, our webmaster Ian and Kiva, the secretary, compiled the following list of internships that you can find on our website, tpsa.ie/internships, or if you go to resources, it's there. So this is great. There's just kind of a list. Pretty much everything that was talked about today, maybe bar a few things, will be here, and some of the links as well. So, and more that wasn't there today. So go here, it's an excellent resource, and if you would like to contribute yourself, shoot an email to Ian there. And yeah, so that's all. So thanks everyone for showing up. Goodbye now.